Uh-oh.
A shot towards
Are
right
you kidding
field.
me?
That is going back and off the wall.
She yarded that.
Gone. 3-run shot. 3-run go-ahead homer by Olivia Pichardo.
Her first hit of the year.
And Mr.
We just saw history here, folks. We absolutely just saw history. Not only did Olivia Pichardo collect her first hit in Prospect League history, it was a 3-run home run to put her team up in extra innings.
Hi, I'm Quentin,
And I'm Michael.
and this is Season 3 of the Prospects for Success podcast, where we bring you our thoughts on Prospect League baseball and beyond.
Observations, interviews, and a few surprises.
Let's get started with Episode 3. We are 2 weeks into the season. Let's talk about what we've learned so far.
Okay, it's a short season. It's 10 weeks. So the first 2 weeks, you're 20% of the way through. So you're in some ways you're still kind of feeling out and figuring out what your team is made of and what you can do and what you can't do. But by the same token, we're pretty deep into the season now, so you've got to figure out what you can, who you can count on, who you can't, and some of those division leaders, some of those stats leaders are really starting to stand out now.
Yeah, so let's get into the division leaders. First, for the Eastern Conference of the Northeast, we got the Chillicothe Paints sitting at a 7-3 record. They're on a hot streak of 2 wins, and their last 10 games they are 7-3. For the Central of the Eastern Division, we have the Danville Dans. They are 7-3. They're on a winning streak of 2, and they are 7-3. Now, let's get into the Western Conference. The Northeast, the Pistol Shrimp of Illinois. They are 8-4 with a losing streak of 1. They're 6-4 in their last 10. And finally, for the Western South Conference, the Thrillville Thrillbillies are 7-3. They have a losing record of 1, and they are 7-3 in their last 10.
Okay, so in the East, Chillicothe started out kind of rough. It was win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. They started rattling up. They went on a bit of a winning streak there and rattled off a few and caught up to Johnstown, and who just kind of came back to the pack. Johnstown was looking pretty good out of the gate. They were my pick to win that win the Northeast Division, but they've kind of come back to the pack a little bit. But it's pretty tight up there at the top of that. With the Paints are 7-3, Millrat 7-5, Aviator 6-5. Champion City's struggling right now, 3-7. They just can't find any pitching right now. It seems like they've been okay everywhere else, but they're just really struggling with getting their pitching put together right now. So 3-7 doesn't completely knock you out of things. You can still turn that around. So it's pretty close across all of that. But the way the Paints are hitting again this year, it just seems like they always roll out a lineup that just hits.
Like you said, your pick was the Millrats. My pick was originally the Kings. And yeah, the Paints are actually hitting pretty good here in the first half, They do have two returning players from last season, but I'm not going to announce that because I don't know if I'm allowed to yet. But I will announce that tomorrow or our next podcast episode. But yeah, the Paints are looking pretty solid. And then in the Central, you got the Corn Belters right behind the Danville Dans at 5-7. And then Clinton behind Illinois Valley at 5-3. And then the Hoots are just behind the Thrillville Thrillbillies at 8-4. They actually played 2 times today, as Thrillville beat them 5-3 in game 1 of their doubleheader. And as we're recording this, the Champion City Kings are now officially 4-7 as they beat Normal. So Normal is 5-8, and Champion City moves up to 4-7. So yeah, I like a lot of these, you know, standings so far, and hopefully some teams that are last now can get it together.
Well, obviously, it's better for the league and it's better for all the teams and all the players if everybody still feels like they have a shot, later into the season. And it's, again, it feels kind of weird to say 2 weeks in, somebody does or doesn't still have a shot. You can go on a run. I mean, even right now, the uh, probably the big surprise for me, in the Northwest Division of the Western Conference, I picked the Springfield Lucky Horseshoes to come out of that because I thought they were gonna have a good, but in their first 10, they're 2-8. Just really have had some trouble putting it together on that. But even at that, at 2-8, you can turn that around. I think we remember right, the Paints, their last championship season, they started that season 2-7. And so it is not impossible to get this figured out and turn it around. So no matter where you are in the standings right now, you've got a shot. But man, let's take a look at that South Division in the Western Conference. You've got you've got 4 of the 5 teams at the 2 week mark. 4 of those 5 teams have 7 wins. That is just they are just going crazy on everybody.
Yeah, I mean the South Division of the Western, I mean the South Conference of the Western Anyways, um, so yeah, I mean, there's a tight race in the that division. I mean, my pick was originally the Cape Catfish, and they're 4-7, but I mean, they do have time to turn it around. I mean, so does Alton, Jackson, and O'Fallon. They're only like 1 game behind each other. But I do like how that, division is kind of equaled out because last season it was kind of questionable.
And like you started to mention, there are still some players who are showing up for some of these teams. Some players who maybe they had something else going on, or their regular college team has been advancing in the NCAA World Series, and so as some of those teams get knocked out, more players are available to start to join their teams. There's no trades in the prospect league, but sometimes these players that can join after a week or even 2, uh, that can feel like that almost like a trade does in the major leagues, whereas suddenly your team's bolstered a little bit, and maybe you had a hole in that you felt someplace where your team wasn't quite as good, but you add somebody, 1 or 2 people to your team, and suddenly you change just the entire complexion of a team.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of people that adding to the team, I know the Paints added like 3 new guys a couple of days ago. Jorge Gomez, Brain Quinzel, and I can't remember his name, but I know there was three of them, and
Let's go ahead and tell them who the other guy is that's coming in.
All right.
The
So
goat.
there's
The goat.
there's I just found this out today actually. So for all you Paints fans out there, returning to the Chillicothe Paints for his third or fourth. I think it's third. Tim Orr.
Last year's Mike Schmidt Player of the Year is going to be back in the Prospect League one more time.
This is his last season in the Prospect League.
So we are really looking forward to seeing Tim Orr back in the league. That's going to be a huge shot in the arm. So while we're talking about him coming in, let's talk about who's actually been here for the last 2 weeks. Let's I know that the league has every week they pick a hitter of the week and a pitcher of the week, and so we've seen those for the first couple of weeks. But now, okay, just for these first 2 weeks, who's standing out to you as your hitter for the first 2 weeks and your pitcher for the first 2 weeks?
Well, I know the Prospect League has a hot take of their own, and that's fine with me. But my personal hitter of the 2 weeks has got to be Samuel Fabian. And my pitcher has got to be a Clinton Lumber Kings pitcher. He's pretty good. I don't know what his first name is. I'll have to look at that. But his last name is Burke. I know the Prospect League picked him. Yeah, he's pretty good. He has 2 wins. He's up there. And, and obviously
that 0.75 ERA is looking awfully good.
and obviously you have like good hitters, and look at this stolen bases. Landon Crowden actually has 14. He's first in their stolen bases. And then batting average, you have 3 Paints players in that batting average, and then you got a Pistol Shrimp player that is 500 and a Thrillbillies player that is 500. So yeah, I really like how the teams are slowly putting it together. And then obviously you have a Danville Dan's pitcher that has 19 strikeouts of the season. That is really good. And then a save pitcher for Alton that has 5 saves.
That's one that kind of jumps out to me right now, because even though Alton has, you can't really say they've struggled. They're 7-5 after the first 12 games, after the first 2 weeks. But for 5 of those 7 games to be close, where you needed somebody to come in a save situation and do it, that's where you see teams kind of fall apart in this league sometimes and leave wins on the table. Is you had a close game and you couldn't close it out. So that's why, for me, in that South division, even though Alton is, technically they're sitting in 4th place right now out of 5 teams. They've got 7 wins. The Thrillbillies are on top. They've got 7 wins. But to have somebody at the end of a game that you can hand the ball to, that you trust, to come in and finish that game, that can absolutely be the difference between getting into the playoffs and advancing and not even making the playoffs.
Yeah, especially with teams like the Paints. They got a lot of players up here. You got Alex Bemis with 20 runs batted in, and then you got Eric Colosso, 8 stolen bases on the season, and then Fabian and Bemis currently tied with home runs right now, as both of them are tied for first. And you got, like, for hitting, Cole Riley, Trevor Coltonback, Ty Hatfield, all with over 400, batting averages. And it's just like, yes, hitting is a part, but pitching is definitely a big part as well, especially when you can have some great savers on the team that can actually rely and get you out of the predicament that you're actually in.
All right, so with that said, with all of these great performances going on and all these crazy things that have happened, let's get to it. We are going to start a new thing here where a few times during the season, we're going to stop, and I don't understand what any of this means. I'm just going to read what's on the paper in front of me. But apparently, at this point in the season, we are supposed to pick our Woop Woop moment and our Womp Womp moment at this point in the Prospect League season. Quentin, I think I better let you start so I can figure out what this even means.
All right, so my first Woop Woop moment. Samuel Fabian, home run over the Paints scoreboard. Props to him. My Womp Womp moment. I actually have 2 of them to start for the same team. Full count rhythm, walking the Paint's best hitter, and then them getting a single hit off of them to walk it off. And I guess I'll have to put Eric Colosso's in there for a Whoop Whoop moment too. That was pretty well timed. But yeah, basically that's all I have for Whoop Whoop and Womp Womps.
All right, so I think I've got this figured out now. So my Womp Womp moment then has to be the day after the Paints get that walk-off win at home. They go on the road to Champion City, which we've already said is having ERA woes or having all these problems. and they blow a 6-7 run lead in the bottom of the ninth to lose a walk off.
To
And
lose it 9-8.
They lose 9-8 the next night. So you go from this joyous feeling like we're invincible. You sweep the full count rhythm, you get a walk-off win to finish the sweep. You're feeling fantastic. You can go on the road the next day. You're feeling really good for eight and a half innings because you're on top, and then suddenly the wheels absolutely fall off the wagon, and they lose. Now, to their benefit, they righted the ship. Next two games in Terre Haute, win-win. So maybe they're feeling a little better about things. But to go through that good of a stretch and then turn around and just completely blow it in for an inning, that's my big womp womp moment. But my whoop whoop moment has got to be Olivia Pichardo hitting the 3-run bomb in extra innings for Du Bois County. She is the first D1 female college baseball player playing for Brown University. Gets an invitation to come play in the Prospect League for Du Bois County in their return to the Prospect League. And she absolutely hit a nuke with 2 on. Love seeing, because I love seeing the enthusiasm for the big hits and the home runs and everything anyway. It seemed like there was a little bit extra out of her teammates on that home run. Absolutely well-deserved. That is my absolute huge number one top whoop whoop moment for the first 2 weeks of the season.
Oh yeah, Olivia just hitting that home run off of the rhythm, by the way. No hate, but that was very props to you. You love to see it. You're up there in talent. Love seeing you play ball. Hoping to see you start in Chillicothe. I'm gonna add a whoop whoop and womp womp. We should pick 2 teams for a whoop whoop and 2 teams for womp womps.
All right.
That we dislike and like for the first 2 weeks.
You want me to go first?
I'll go first.
You're gonna go first. All right.
All right. So my number, I'm gonna go with the whoop whoop teams. The Chillicothe Paints and the Illinois Valley Pistol Shrimp. Now my 2 womp womps, the Full Count Rhythm and the Springfield Lucky Horseshoes. The only reason why I say Full Count is on that list, they're going through a lot right now, and they're the kind of team that can't handle pressure right now. They get this going into that game. There was a second game of that series against the Paints. They lost 21-7. That game took like 3-4 hours. We were in the first inning for 30 minutes. And the only reason why I say full count is they haven't really been able to turn anything around. Yes, they have 1 win. Their game is still going against Alton right now. They could win that one. I don't doubt that they won't win. And then the only reason why I say Springfield, 2-8. Can't hardly get anything done around the bases. Their coach is decent. I have some kind words to say about that coach. Former Quincy Gems coach, by the way. Jimmy Craig loves you. But, just Springfield, just not having a good season so far. And yes, it is early that we talked about. It's early in the season. But to get in, you want to be going into the season and ending the first half with confidence. And you want to be able to have that first playoff game at home. You want to have that home energy by your side. In the first round, we never know. Maybe the Full Count Rhythm could blow it out of the water in the first half and just absolutely go on a winning streak. And shout out to Henry, by the way. We miss you.
Love you, Henry.
But yeah, Chillicothe, whoop whoop. Illinois Valley, big whoop whoop. Did not expect them to start 8-4. You guys are killing it. Please
Yeah,
save us.
And that's a big move for them because they actually switched conferences.
They were in the Central Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and with Full Count and Du Bois County coming in, they both took spots in that Central Division, and so Illinois Valley moved to the West, and so that's been big. So let me I could have picked some of those same ones that you picked, but for my Womp Womp, I gotta say Champion City is my Womp Womp. I really expected them to do better. I think they're going to be okay. But they do need to get their coaching's fine. Their hitting's fine. We haven't seen Blake Buzzio yet.
Yeah, there's really no news about him yet. Not that.
But
they've
still got the Sherman tank, Lucas Day, on that team. He hits like a Sherman tank, but he also runs like a Sherman tank. But they're going to be fine. All right, their offense is going to be fine. They just they can put a string together with some pitching. They're going to be okay. But they're my Womp Womp right now because I definitely expected more from them out of the gate. My Woop Woop. And I don't know why I doubt them every year, and they just come back and settle and just play great baseball as the Danville Dans. Perpetually just a winning organization and a winning team. Danville's on top of the Central now. I fully expect them really to be on top of the Central at the half break, and I would not be surprised at all if Danville is still on top at the end of the season. So that's my Woop Woop team for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, especially with Danville having the great coaching staff that they have, and me personally, I like Lucas Day. I don't like that he hits well against the paints every time. I like him, but he's no Austin Norman. He's no Victor Figueroa. I like him though.
Yeah, we'll still have you on the podcast if you want to.
Yeah, we'll give you a shout out and everything. Hi, I'm Quentin.
And I'm Michael.
And this is Season 3 of the Prospects for Success podcast, where we bring you our thoughts on Prospect League baseball and beyond.
Observations, interviews, and a few surprises.
Let's get started with Episode 3. We are 2 weeks into the season. Let's talk about what we've learned so far.